Hi, thanks for tuning in today to Front Porch Conversations. And we're doing something today that we haven't done this whole year. We're back on the front porch at the Copeland Community Center. And so you know it's a little warmer and it's a beautiful day here in Dowling Park. I want to welcome our guest today, Jan Hendrickson. Jan, thank you so much for agreeing to sit down and converse with me and share a little bit about your life and your work.
Thank you for asking.
And Jan, when did you move here?
I moved here in 2019, June the 26th.
And then what happened for the rest of that year and the next?
Oh, it was a little crazy. I had an adjustment period, and then shortly after, we had some illnesses, and before too much longer, COVID took over. I was just getting into the swing of things when they all stopped. But it's still a great place as far as I'm concerned, and I'm still consider myself blessed to be living here.
Oh, we're blessed to have you here among us. And you're at Dowling House, is that correct?
I am in Dowling House, yeah.
And do you have a view of the river from your apartment?
I have a wonderful view of Wilson Gardens roof.
Well, how nice.
About this much of the river.
Well, I think as long as you see the river, it's a good thing for me.
It is, yeah.
I love being around water.
I do too.
Jan, let's go back in history a little bit. Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born and grew up in central Ohio in a very rural, very poor county just north of Columbus. Had what I like to refer to as a storybook childhood, because I had two wonderful Christian parents, four fabulous Christian grandparents. Both of my grandfathers were ministers. One set of grandparents lived next door to us, and we were always close together and having family dinners and fun. And we had big dinners on Sunday after church. That grandfather was the pastor of an AC church, and after church on Sundays, 6 of their 8 children would drive out from wherever it was they lived, and we would all have Sunday dinner together. I grew up with a lot of cousins. We had a 70-acre farm and lots of space to run and play and just have a really good time.
And for our viewers, would you tell them what the closest small town was to you? Because we have people who've come from everywhere here, and they might go, I know exactly where that is.
I bet they've never heard of Centerburg, Ohio.
Well, we'll see. If somebody watches and says, yep, they'll reach out to you, I'm sure.
Centerburg's claim is the geographical heart of Ohio. So we were right smack in the middle.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
I have a younger brother who became a Presbyterian pastor, and a younger sister.
And they're both still living?
They're both still living, yes.
And I believe you made a trip not long ago.
I just returned about a week ago from Ohio. I went up north to see my family. My mom is in a nursing home, and my sister is in a nursing home. My brother lives in Pennsylvania, but he and some of his children were able to come across the state line and visit with us. So we all got to see each other.
Good.
Yeah.
And does anybody still live on the family farm of your family?
It was sold about 2 years ago. And that was kind of heart-wrenching because 4 generations of us had lived there and grown up in that home. I did drive by it, and it was kind of tough to see that somebody else was living there, but we don't want to get too tangled up with things here on this earth.
That's true. And did you go to school in that area?
I did, and eventually I taught 10 years in that same school district where I had attended.
And after Well, let's go back. What is a favorite childhood memory in addition to the idyllic childhood life?
I would say that's probably my favorite childhood memory. We had certain holidays that on Thanksgiving we went to a specific aunt's house and everyone had dinner there. Christmas we went to a different aunt's house and had a big family dinner there. And like I said, on Sundays we were always together. I probably had 35 or 40 first cousins, and we were together a lot. And just the freedom to roam all that space, the open space, and to know that I was safe and loved and cared for. It's very good background, I think.
And a blessing.
Oh, definitely.
Tell us about your school years. What were your favorite subjects, or what did you like to do during school?
Oh, I loved to read, and I liked English and history. Did not like math. Never could figure it out. Didn't care when the train was going to arrive at the station from whatever place it had started.
I certainly identify with that.
And I didn't care why they thought I should. So, but my two favorite subjects were English and history. And like I said, I love to read. I was also blessed that my parents allowed me to join the Nancy Drew Book Club. And I would get a book once a month. I'd finish it that afternoon. When it came in the mail, you wouldn't see me till the book was done.
That sounds like a wonderful way to spend an afternoon.
Yeah.
And in high school, did you take part in activities, or?
I did. I helped on the school newspaper, and I wasn't very athletic, so I was not a cheerleader. I didn't participate in sports. I had rheumatic fever, and I couldn't take a lot of physical education things, so I did library work, and I did some tutoring in high school too, some of the younger students. And I guess that's when I felt the desire to start teaching. I enjoyed that a lot.
Now, immediately after graduation, did you go to college?
I did. I spent 1 year at Ohio State. And back in 1966, it was a big school. You can imagine how much bigger it is now. It was way too big for me. So I was not happy there. The lifestyle was not one that I was used to. And I transferred to Berkshire in Lenox, Massachusetts, and I finished my education there.
There may be some people who are not familiar with Berkshire watching. Would you tell us about Berkshire?
It's really a good school. I would think that apparently it started to train ministers and missionaries way back when. It began in Brookline, Massachusetts, and then it was moved later to the Berkshire Mountains, and that's where I attended. There's several people here who had been at Berkshire. It's kind of like almost like a reunion to see them every once in a while, and I enjoy bumping into them once in a while too. I took education courses there and enjoyed it, had a wonderful time. It was an old estate that had been converted into classrooms, and we had a swimming pool, and there were sports teams. Coach Peters was there, and Sandy, and just really
people who are still living right out here together.
Yes, they're still here now. Yeah, it's good to see them after 50 years.
Well, tell us about somebody you roomed with.
That would be Cheryl Gilroy. She and I were like this. I don't know how it started, but we ended up just becoming very close friends. And as a joke, some of the girls in our dorm moved our stuff into the same room. We weren't roommates to begin with.
Oh, okay.
But they moved our stuff into the same room. And we never changed it back. So we stayed roommates, but we did all kinds of things together, and we had a lot of fun. We have stayed in touch through the years, and I visited she and Jim when they were in Florida, when they were in California, and it's just been a wonderful plan that we joked about. When we retired, we would come here to Dowling Park and live next door to each other.
Well, for our viewers who have not met Cheryl, she was a Front Porch Conversation about a month ago. And so we heard her side of the story too, and they match up.
Oh, okay, good.
And she lives just outside of the village, but is very involved with the village as well. I also have a college roommate that I'm still very close to, and we have been, for 50 years. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like having a sister.
And I think that's one of the things that's important about Berkshire. You make friendships there that last for years and years and years. Good quality people.
What happened after you graduated from college? What did you do next?
Well, I went back home to Ohio, and I did not have a teaching job right away. So I worked in an office for a while. And then I became a teacher in the district from which I had graduated. And I taught there for 10 years. After that, I was in an accident and could not continue. So my life took a turn for the different, and I've had probably, a wide variety of different jobs since then. I've been a caseworker, I've been a home health aide, I worked for Head Start, I worked in retail, I've just done a lot of different things, and I've enjoyed them all.
And when you were teaching, what did you teach?
At different times, I taught 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grades.
Those are fun ages.
Yeah. 3rd grade was my favorite.
My 3rd grade teacher was my favorite. Yeah, it's a kind of a little bit of a growing up year, I think.
Yes.
In that age.
I liked it because they still had respect for the teacher, and the peers were not quite as big an influence on them as they are when they get a little older. After I quit teaching, I did substitute for a couple of years.
And through all those years, have you remained active in the Advent Christian Church?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. I stayed in the church where I grew up, which was where my grandfather was a pastor, and it's in Sparta, Ohio.
Jan, when would you say that you first came to faith, in the faith of your own?
Well, I attended Sunday school from a very young age. We were all involved in our church, and I had wonderful biblical Sunday school teachers. We were well taught, and I realized the importance of a relationship with the Lord and how that would make my life a completely different issue. I knew that it wasn't always going to be rosy and perfect, but I also knew that He had promised that I wouldn't go through it alone. Mm-hmm. And I was baptized when I was 12.
Was your grandfather still the pastor?
Yes, he was, and he was the one that baptized me. Mm-hmm.
That must have been a special blessing to him as well as to you.
I think it was, yeah. He baptized several of his grandchildren, yeah.
And then as you grew, did you attend youth groups or summer camps or things that were important?
For several years, my parents were the youth group advisors, and then I continued even after they were no longer in that role. I was a Sunday school teacher, and I was in the choir, and I eventually became part of the WH&FMS and attended those meetings. And
Jan, would you tell us, our viewers who might not know, what the WHMFS is?
Women's Home and Foreign Mission Society is what WHFMS stands for. And again, my family was always involved in that. My mother and grandmother were both quite active in it. And I sort of stepped in as well and became one of the members and attended meetings and did programs and so on and so forth. And years later, when I became a missionary, it was good background for me, good information, nice contacts.
I was wondering if that's where your interest in mission work and foreign mission started.
I'm not sure, but it probably had something to do with it. I know I read a lot of the things that were written by Barbara White and Laura Putnam and by Larry Watton, and we just were very focused on what they and the Caseys were doing in the foreign countries where they were based.
And those folks that you've just mentioned are all members of the village here or have been?
Yes, they are. It's a big treat to see people that you read about and followed their career, and to see them in church on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How old were you when you first began thinking you would like to be a missionary?
Old.
I think that's something you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it. Well, I thought about becoming a missionary when I was young, but life and stuff happened and I did other things, all those different careers that I had. And it wasn't until Hal Patterson, who was the director of World Missions, came to our church one year, and I had been thinking seriously about working in an orphanage. And I spoke to him after the service, and I said, I know there's no orphanages in our work right now. And he said, but there might be. So I took the big step and I applied. And at 59, I left the state of Ohio and went to the Philippines as a missionary. A lot of people go when they're a lot younger. And I think I want to give the denomination kudos for sending an old lady that far at that age, because I would guess it's not necessarily completely unheard of, but they never said to me, you're too old, or how do you think you'll manage this, that, or the other. They accepted me and sent me off on my way. And I'm glad.
And I know the people you worked with and served were glad as well that you were there, yeah, that the Lord had sent you. Where in the Philippines were you?
I was on the island of Mindanao at the very southern tip, and our Bible college, Oral Bible College, is at the most northern part of that island. I did get to visit it a few times, but the orphanage is at a city called Mati, and it's way down south. And
it still is in operation?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
tell us about your time there, what the meaningful parts were and what you experienced.
Well, right up front, I need to tell you, it's the best thing I ever did with my life. Like I said, I had lots of careers, but I never did anything so wonderful. I got to be mommy to several young children. I was also a teacher when I was there. I taught in the elementary school that was supported by the orphanage. And I also taught in the Career Center, which was a little different for me because they were older students and I had no experience with that age. We participated in VBS. We had feedings once a month. We would invite children from the Sunday school areas that we served, and they would all come in a pickup truck, which you can't get away with here anymore. Right. But they would drive into the compound in the back of a pickup truck, and we would put on a feeding for them, and then we would play games with them. And we would go out every Sunday and have a Sunday school lesson with them, teach them Bible verses and songs. We did at one point provide what we call flip-flops for them because many of the children had nothing on their feet. And they lived in rocky areas, broken glass, cut pieces of metal. It was quite dangerous for them. And I just really loved everything. Great people, wonderful people.
You were telling me about a young man who had a lot of physical disabilities.
That's my boy. The first child that we got in the orphanage was Daniel. He was 5.5, and he had what the neurologists called global delays. He'd had a stroke. He was crippled. He was the size of a 2-year-old. He could not walk or speak, and he was bottle fed still at the age of 5.5. But that boy, when I laid eyes on him, became mine. And we carried him everywhere we went. The social worker and I were his moms. And whatever he wanted, he got. I always tell people that he recognized my voice and he would give an utter shriek of delight when he heard it, because he knew that whatever he wanted, he was going to get. He loved anything that made noises, and so, of course, I provided him with all kinds of noisy things, bottle caps on a string and stuff he could throw, and then he would laugh, and he was just thrilled to pieces. We introduced him to solid food, and he began gaining weight. He's had seizures, but we did enroll him in special education. He went to school every morning. His social skills were probably the best thing that they could work on for him, because the neurologist said he would always have the mentality of a 9-month-old child. Currently, Daniel is 20 years old, and he's almost as tall as I am.
Oh my goodness. Good nutrition helped a lot, didn't it?
He does walk now, but he still can't speak.
Well, it seems like he was a gift to you and you to him.
I think so. I think so.
Are there other things you'd like to share with our viewers today?
Well, I remember when I was out speaking at various churches, I like to point out that you're never too old to be a missionary. And at 59 years of age, I think I might have proven that. Although my health is not what it used to be. We don't all have to go to a foreign country, but you can pray and you can encourage. I got lovely cards and birthday wishes and just all kinds of support, emails, all kinds of things. But we can all do something, and I'm glad I did what I did.
And it's never too late to try.
Never too late.
Never too late.
No.
And now that we're having a little bit more ability to get out and around, are you enjoying the village?
I love it here. It's very, very nice. It's the second best thing I ever did with my life.
Well, that's quite a testament for the village. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I hope you've also, as well as the conversation, enjoyed the concert by the Birds this morning. They're happy today, too. Tune in again for another episode of Front Porch Conversations.